Clara Daniels was the golden girl of Elmsbrook High, brilliant, ambitious, and destined for greatness. Aaron Blake was the admired English teacher, respected, charming, and hiding a deadly secret. When their forbidden affair spiraled into obsession, betrayal, and ultimately murder, no one in their quiet town saw the storm coming. But behind every perfect image lies a dark truth, and this one ended with a body buried in the woods. In the peaceful town of Elmsbrook, life moved slowly. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, where doors were left unlocked and gossip traveled faster than the morning news. Nothing much happened there, at least not until the story of Clara Daniels changed everything. Clara was a star in every way. At just 17, she had already built a reputation as the top student at Elmsbrook High School. Her teachers praised her intelligence and discipline, while classmates admired her looks and confidence. She was driven, always working toward her goal of attending an Ivy League college. Her life seemed picture-perfect. A close-knit family, a full scholarship on the horizon, and a future filled with promise. To anyone watching, Clara was unstoppable. Part of her success was owed to her willingness to go above and beyond. She was the kind of student who stayed after class to ask questions, volunteered to help organize school events, and tutored other students in her free time. That was how she first grew close to Mr. Aaron Blake, the school's 34-year-old English teacher. He had a reputation for being charming and progressive, always encouraging his students to think critically and push boundaries. His classes were the most popular at the school, and many students claimed he was the only teacher who truly understood them. Clara had taken an early interest in literature, and Mr. Blake seemed to notice her potential right away. He offered to help her prepare for college essays and even suggested she enter writing competitions to boost her applications. At first it seemed innocent, a dedicated teacher mentoring a gifted student. Their meetings after school became more frequent, and Clara's friends joked about how much time she spent in Mr. Blake's classroom. She always brushed it off, saying she was just trying to get ahead. No one gave it a second thought, but something began to shift in Clara. She started spending less time with her usual group of friends. She stopped going to weekend outings and seemed more distracted in class. Her once bright energy dulled slightly, though she still kept up her grades. Her parents noticed too. She was always on her phone, always texting someone late into the night, smiling quietly at her screen but refusing to say who it was. Around the school, a few whispers began to float through the hallways. A sophomore claimed she saw Clara getting into a car that looked like Mr. Blake's late one evening. Another student swore they overheard her on the phone saying, "He's married, but he loves me." Still, nothing concrete surfaced. Without proof, the rumors remained just that. Rumors. Clara's outward life still looked impressive. She was nominated for class president, featured in the local paper for winning a statewide essay competition, and even gave a speech at a school assembly that left parents and teachers beaming. No one suspected that behind her perfect image, a dangerous secret had begun to take root, one that would grow, twist, and eventually explode into a tragedy no one could have seen coming. The line between admiration and obsession is often thin, and in Clara's case it was crossed quietly, almost invisibly. What started as long afternoons spent reviewing essays and poetry turned into late-night conversations that drifted far from literature. Mr. Blake wasn't just helping Clara with her writing anymore. He was listening to her talk about her dreams, her fears, and her frustrations. Slowly, he became more than a teacher. He became someone she trusted in a way that felt both thrilling and confusing. It didn't take long for the relationship to move beyond professional boundaries. Their shared passion for words became a cover for something secret and forbidden. Mr. Blake, over twice Clara's age, knew what he was doing was wrong, but he also believed no one else truly understood him the way Clara did. She was mature for her age, he told himself. She knew what she wanted. That's how he justified every decision, every lie, every moment spent in the shadows. They created a world just for themselves. They used burner email accounts to send love letters disguised as writing critiques. Mr. Blake installed a secure messaging app on Clara's phone, one that didn't leave visible traces. They met at odd hours, sometimes in the empty school parking lot, other times in the back row of an out-of-town movie theater. There was even a motel on the outskirts of Elmsbrook where they would occasionally rent a room for a few hours. It was risky, reckless, and intoxicating. To the outside world, Clara's life still seemed perfectly on track. She continued to win academic awards and even earned early acceptance into a top university. But the pressure of maintaining her double life was starting to wear on her. She became paranoid, constantly checking over her shoulder, making sure no one was watching. Her moods became unpredictable. She'd be elated one day, then withdrawn the next. Friends noticed but were hesitant to ask too many questions. Clara had always been intense about her goals. Maybe she was just stressed. At school, a few teachers grew suspicious. One assistant coach reported seeing Clara leave Mr. Blake's classroom late one evening, long after the janitors had finished cleaning. Another teacher noticed them talking closely near the faculty parking lot and felt something wasn't right. A formal complaint was filed anonymously, prompting the school to conduct a quiet internal review. Mr. Blake insisted nothing inappropriate was going on, and Clara denied everything. Without solid evidence, the investigation was quickly closed. But even with the investigation dropped, cracks were beginning to form. Mr. Blake grew more controlling. He started questioning Clara's interactions with other boys. He wanted to know where she was at all times, who she was texting, who she was with. Clara, once confident and independent, found herself shrinking under the weight of the relationship. She still believed he loved her, but something about that love began to feel suffocating. Still, she kept the secret. She was in too deep, and part of her believed they could make it work. But secrets that powerful never stay hidden forever, and Clara's would soon begin to unravel in the worst way imaginable. The morning Clara Daniels didn't show up to school, it barely raised an eyebrow. It was a Thursday and absences weren't uncommon. Her teachers assumed she might be homesick, maybe overwhelmed from her recent schedule of exams and college preparations. But by lunchtime, a quiet concern began to spread. She hadn't informed anyone, not even her closest friends. Her phone was going straight to voicemail, and her last seen message on social media was from the night before. Still, no one imagined the worst, at least not yet. By the end of the school day, her mother grew anxious. Clara was usually punctual, always texting updates about where she was and when she'd be home. Her car was still parked in the driveway. Her purse and ID were in her room, but her phone and jacket were missing. The family checked nearby parks, local cafes, and even the library. They called her friends, who all gave the same answer. They hadn't seen or heard from Clara since Wednesday evening. That night, her parents contacted the police. A formal missing person report was filed, and within hours a search was launched. Volunteers combed the wooded areas around Elmsbrook. Drones were deployed over fields and hiking trails. Flyers were posted across town. The community, shaken by the sudden disappearance of one of its brightest students, rallied together, hoping it was just a misunderstanding. As days passed, hope began to fade. Investigators discovered that Clara's phone had been turned off around 10:24 p.m. on the night she went missing. Surveillance footage from a gas station on the edge of town showed her car driving past just after 9 p.m., but the angle didn't reveal who was inside. There were no signs of forced entry at her home, no ransom calls, no leads. Her parents were devastated, her friends were terrified. On the third day, a hiker stumbled upon something buried just off a remote trail about 10 miles outside of town. It was a shallow grave, partly covered in leaves and loose soil. Inside was Clara's body. She was found lying on her side, her eyes closed as if asleep. There were no defensive wounds, no signs of a physical struggle. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death as manual strangulation. Whoever had killed her hadn't used a weapon. It was personal, intimate. Her fingernails were broken, suggesting a desperate attempt to fight back. But she hadn't stood a chance. The town of Elmsbrook fell into collective mourning. Grief counselors were brought into the school. Candlelight vigils were held on the football field. Her photo, once proudly displayed for academic achievements, was now surrounded by flowers and handwritten notes in remembrance. Behind the scenes, detectives began working around the clock. They started digging into Clara's recent history, looking at her phone records, her online activity, and the people she had been closest to. One name kept surfacing again and again: Mr. Aaron Blake. And though he insisted he had nothing to hide, the investigation had only just begun. The investigation into Clara Daniels's murder intensified quickly. With few leads and mounting pressure from the public, detectives focused on those closest to her. Her family was questioned first, worried parents with no answers. Her classmates were next, offering little more than rumors and vague suspicions. But one name kept resurfacing over and over: Mr. Aaron Blake. He had been one of the last people seen with Clara. Though nothing had ever been confirmed about their relationship, the whispers had never really stopped. Police brought him in for questioning. He was calm, composed, cooperative. He admitted to mentoring Clara, said she was one of his brightest students, and claimed he hadn't spoken to her outside of school in weeks. It sounded rehearsed. Investigators weren't convinced. They obtained a warrant to search his home and vehicle. At first, everything appeared normal: textbooks, school materials, a neatly organized desk. But in a locked drawer in the study, they found a small leather-bound journal. It wasn't his. The handwriting inside belonged to Clara. The entries were raw, emotional, and detailed. She wrote about feeling special, about how Mr. Blake made her feel seen and understood. But as the pages went on, the tone shifted. She described feeling trapped, scared, uncertain. In the final entry, dated just 2 days before her disappearance, Clara wrote that she couldn't take it anymore. She was planning to end the relationship and tell someone everything. It was a major breakthrough, but one that brought more questions than answers. Forensic analysis revealed multiple sets of fingerprints on the journal. Most were Clara's. Some were Mr. Blake's. But another set stood out. They belonged to Melissa Blake, Aaron's wife. She hadn't been on anyone's radar. Melissa was quiet, reserved, and rarely seen around the school. She worked from home and kept to herself. But the discovery of her prints on the journal couldn't be ignored. Investigators pulled her phone records and found something unexpected. On the night Clara disappeared, Melissa S. phone had pinged near the same remote trail where Clara S. body was later found. When questioned, Melissa claimed she had gone for a drive to clear her head. She said she had no idea who Clara really was, insisting she didn't even know her husband had been involved with her. But her story began to crumble quickly. Detectives uncovered a deleted folder on her laptop. In it were screenshots of Clara's social media posts, old emails between Clara and Aaron, and a backup of the same journal, photographed page by page. She had known everything, not for days but for months. A single strand of blonde hair found under Clara's fingernails, once thought insignificant, was re-examined. It matched Melissa's DNA. Faced with the mounting evidence, Melissa's demeanor changed. She no longer cried or denied. She simply stared ahead, silent. The reality was clear. Someone else had known the secret, and they had been willing to kill to keep it buried. The truth was finally emerging, but it was darker than anyone had imagined. Melissa Blake's arrest sent shockwaves through Elmsbrook. For weeks, the town had been consumed by the mystery of Clara Daniels' death. Many were convinced Aaron Blake, the charming English teacher, was guilty. But the truth was more disturbing than anyone had imagined. The killer hadn't been Clara's lover but his wife. Melissa confessed, but only after hours of questioning and mounting evidence. Her voice was flat, her expression unreadable. She said she hadn't planned to kill Clara. She just wanted to confront her. She felt humiliated, betrayed by her husband, and consumed by anger toward the girl who had, in her mind, destroyed her marriage. But her version of events didn't line up with the facts. In the days before Clara's murder, Melissa had obsessively tracked her movements. GPS data showed she had driven past Clara's house multiple times. She had followed her from school on 2 occasions. On the night Clara vanished, Melissa left home around 8:30 p.m., telling Aaron she was meeting a friend. That friend later confirmed no such meeting had been planned. Melissa drove to the outskirts of town, parked near the hiking trail, and waited. Clara arrived just after 9 p.m. Investigators believe she had planned to meet Aaron there. Instead, she found Melissa. There were signs of a brief struggle, broken branches, a torn strap from Clara's bag. But there was no screaming, no one nearby to hear anything. Melissa attacked quickly, strangling Clara with her bare hands. It was personal, filled with rage. Then she buried the body with a small camping shovel she had brought in the trunk of her car. Afterwards, she drove home, deleted her location history, and acted as if nothing had happened. Aaron Blake was left reeling. He admitted to the affair with Clara, something he had tried to deny for weeks. He claimed he never believed his wife knew. Once Melissa was charged, the school board dismissed him immediately. Though he wasn't charged with Clara's death, his career, reputation, and marriage were over. In the eyes of the public, he was still responsible, if not legally, then morally. Melissa's trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. The journal, the GPS data, the recovered screenshots, and the DNA match. Her defense argued diminished capacity, claiming she had suffered a psychological break. But the jury wasn't convinced. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison for second-degree murder, with no chance of parole for at least 20. Clara's parents never recovered from the loss. Their daughter had been a rising star, taken from them by a storm of lies, secrets, and jealousy. At her funeral, hundreds gathered to remember her brilliance, her ambition, and the future she never got to live. Elmsbrook changed forever. The school installed stricter policies for teacher-student relationships. Townspeople, once trusting and close, grew more guarded. And the trail where Clara S.'s body was found remains abandoned, an unspoken reminder of a tragedy born from forbidden love and deadly consequences.